Houston, say again, please.
Houston, we had a problem. We had a main B plus undervolt.
Roger, main B undervolt. Okay, stand by 13, we're looking.
Welcome to Fake and Misunderstood, or Misunderstood Pictures. We have with us today Chris Maroney, Martina Graney, Will Farrar, Billy Carson, and Neville Thompson, and myself, Thomas Markey. And we are gonna look at some pictures from Chris today. And we are gonna start with the original picture from Chris that he has posted here. Chris, would you like to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is, I mean, most of the time they don't give you any kind of scaling, so you can't tell how far you are away from these objects. And because of this yellow filter, the reddish color that they throw over, and they throw a manipulation over these things, it's hard to tell what you're looking at. But even at this original photo, when you look at it, you can see what on the right-hand side. It looks like a butte, like you would see here on Earth. And then as you go along, you can see what looks like things lined up. Like they're literally parallel with each other all the way down, and you can just see that just looks like that. And just to give people an idea, that came from Nev T, the Gigapan master there, it was from 173588. So if you want to drop that link, you can do that too. But it's on the far left of that Gigapan, far left in the background, and this is where I've screenshotted it from. So you've got that one there, and you can see it looks like these things are kind of lined up, but not too much detail. Yeah. Now, if you switch over to the enhanced one, which I've got the arrows and these circle areas and so on and so forth, I'm going to go ahead and just bring this up here. Okay. The when you look at these, like you got the yellow arrow to the left, the orange, red, and other yellow one. It looks like objects, almost like I don't know what the heck to call them, vehicles, call them something, like structures, all lined up in a row, going from closest to furthest. And then you've got this butte, this funky-looking butte. But guess what? You can see where I put transparent mountains and buttes with a question mark, because there's two objects that are clearly going from the outside. You can see it in the background, and they go right into the butte itself. And it's transparent. So what's that tell you? And if you look closely at that hidden, intelligently made object I put in there, that thing is clearly not it's not a rock, a mountain, or anything else. It looks like some kind of modern device. And if it's, I don't know how far this thing is back. I'd say it's quite far away to a certain degree. But most of these things, they look like they have windows of some sort. They look like they've got some fine detail to them. They don't look like they're just mountainous areas. Or just mountains or buttes lined up. There's far too much in this photo to believe that this is just a simple mountain. And I believe that they're not even that far away from the base of Mount Sharp at all. I believe we figured out that they're probably 30 days behind in these photos. So, yeah, I mean, that gives them plenty of time to do what they want to do to these things, and there you go. The black and white one, you can check that out. It's more evident as far as the transparency of those two objects I had circled that are literally going from the outside of this butte, or this hill's little mountain, and it's going into the actual outlines. You can see it going into the mountain. So what's that tell you? These things are being overlaid and manipulated to hide what's really in the photo. And if you look at these other pieces all lined up again from right to left after that butte, it just looks like a bunch of things just all parallel lined up. I mean, there's just no way around it. And that one little piece in the back really got me. I mean, you can see that thing is plain as day. I don't even know what I'd call it. I really don't. But it clearly is not natural. So let me do this. Jump out of that. Because I'm actually looking at this too to give a better description. So that's pretty much on that first picture. I mean, if everybody wants to go over that one, then we can cover the other.
Well, I've actually noticed these mounds, like, you know, the mounds are not normal. I think they're being built, you know, and I've noticed some in the distance. They've got like they're like got panels along the sides of them with things built on and things built on the top. You know, they're really strange. I think they actually used them as they built them maybe when the water was there thousands of years ago, and each one of these were connected somehow. Maybe it's by the bridges or something. I don't know. But on the top of them, you can see there's actual things being built on the top of each one. You can see that the shape and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
But they're false, you know. They're being built, them mounds.
Well, again, they're messing with your perspective, because the first thing you think of when you think of mountain, you think quite large, right?
Yeah,
which makes sense. This is not that far away. I mean, they make it look like it's super far. These are objects sitting right in front of this rover.
I would say,
from what I gathered, these things are actually, when I say close, they could be, I don't know, a couple 100 feet away. And it makes it look like they're immensely large, like, you know, like they're supposed to be like a quarter-mile high and they're supposed to be buttes. They're not. They're actually being overlaid. There's overlaid things over other things. And I agree with you to a certain extent when you said it looks like they're being built. Absolutely. But what they're doing, let's say that butte that's on the right-hand side, that's actually covering up something that's absolutely there. And it may be multiple things that are there. It's actually covering these things up. And the rest of those objects, to me, they look like some kind of vehicles or and I don't mean like a vehicle like a car like we have, but some kind of weird vehicle or structures just parallel lined up with each other. I used the term, it almost looks like a car lot. Like they got these things just lined up in a row, and I don't see that in a regular natural mountain range on here on Earth. I don't see that ever. So it makes you believe, okay, these things may not be as far away as you think they are, you know. Yeah.
Or could there have been, you know how you get in a dock where you have like
that's a possibility.
Ducks coming out. Now imagine that whole valley filled with water, right? Yep. And you've got these coming out, and they're spaced out exactly the same spacing, you know. Now.
Yep. And here's the thing too, because I encourage anybody to get a magnifying glass and look at this thing, look it over really good, because you're just going to go, clearly these are not mountains. There's just no way in, I would bet my life these are not mountains. And like I said, just scrutinize the heck out of it, whether you got a magnifier in your computer or just a regular magnifying glass. I know Billy does. He's got one about the size of your head, so which is nice to have. I've got this smaller one. It's like a little hand one, so it works well. But I know Billy went like this one day. He's looking at it going, holy crap. But yeah, have a good look at it. Yeah, you'll find it astounding.
Before we continue, I know you have another picture that we also want to bring up here from one of the, what was it, the front cameras on one of the rovers. I'm actually putting it up here now. And here we go. Tell us a little bit about that.
The first one there, and I've also got the link there for it. And I've said this because we've talked freely there before the recording. Of course, it was a few days ago, but I've actually asked the question, when did these fisheye lenses become the norm? Because when you look at that mountain, this supposed mountain, now keep in mind, we just looked at Mount Sharp, supposedly, and yet we're so close to it. It looks things that are close up. Now suddenly we're supposed to look at this picture and say, oh wow, that's Mount Sharp in the background. So which one is it? Are we close to it or are we further away from it? Now when you look at this left part of that mountain, you go, wow, that looks like it stretches back way back. Well, that's because you're looking at a fisheye photo. If you were to correct that photo, and you can go to the next one on that, I've actually corrected that lens, corrected the photo. Suddenly this thing doesn't look that big at all, and then you blast through this manipulation, and that's what that's come out. These are the lines that came out of this thing. So straighten the lens out, get it to where it should be, blast through the any kind of manipulations and obfuscations that may be in the way, and this is what I come out with. I never planned to see this, but I was like, what in God's green earth is that? But regardless, you can see now it doesn't look like this ominous mountain, this huge mountain that's supposed to be 3.4 miles high and much larger in width. I don't see it. It's clearly not there. No. It's being faked, and they're messing with our depth perception, and they're messing with I mean, like I said, for what value is a fisheye lens? What value does that prove? There's nothing there. Especially when it comes to science like this, it's supposed to be like deep, science. They're here to find stuff, and they're using these goofy little fisheye lenses. So yeah.
Martine, what's your thoughts on Chris's pictures?
Going back to the first three.
Yes.
Okay. I just think that this landscape's amazing. I have never seen anything that looks so fake in my life, and I'm becoming more and more aware that more and more of these hillocks, these small hills, have been put in. It just does not look right to me. I mean, I live in an area where we've got lots of rolling hills, but these look like they've almost been painted on. They don't look real. There's almost something, looking at the first one, the sepia-coloured one, dead centre of that image, to the left of the butte, and I say butte in quotes, you've got this strange vertical, almost like brush marks. Mm-hmm. I think if I go to your other one, Chris, where you've numbered it, it's easier to... Oh, that's right. It's just between your red arrow, vertical arrow, and the yellow vertical arrow. That area there looks like it's been painted into me. It just looks like a painting. But what is fascinating, you say about this butte that you feel have been added. I get the impression that these structures go on down the hill, and there's lots of them. Behind what we see is the butte in the foreground. I think these structures are behind, and probably very many more of them as well, whatever they are. Vehicles? You say they're not very big. You don't think that they're very big?
Well, when I say not big, I mean, if it's hard to explain. I mean, there's really no way of knowing because there's no scaling at all. But I truly believe that they're not that far away from these things at all.
Yeah. And of course, our brains are trying to sort of relate back to something we know on Earth to compare these things to, but when we don't know what we're looking at and we can't decipher it, it makes it so much harder. But yeah, I mean, vehicles, little structures, whatever, but I think there were many more of them, and the quickest way to conceal them was to have this huge landscape, this butte stuck in the way, and that's a very quick way of concealing things. But there are more and more of these, on the sides of the mountain, and they just don't look real to me. Not at all.
What's your thought on the second picture Chris came up with the fish lens?
I think that's incredible. Absolutely. And I've done this kind of thing before. In fact, I showed Nev the other night, where I thought on the very sort of summit. Was it Mount Sharp or was it the rim of the crater, Nev? I can't remember now, but there seemed to be some strange goings on around the skyline, and it was only in one area.
No, it was Mount Sharp, yeah. The right-hand side, the left-hand side, yeah.
On the left-hand side, and it looked to me as if there was probably some kind of structures or edifices, whatever, on the top of the hill, and they've been scrubbed out, literally scrubbed out, and there was nothing else that could be seen on the skyline. It almost looked like a very low cloud in one area where it's been done very, very roughly. So, yeah, I mean, I don't look at these skylines very often. I think I should. I'd probably be in for a surprise. This is a terrific example of what's hidden. It looks like it's some kind of building.
Artificial created object. Thank you, Martine. Will Farah, what's your thoughts on these images?
I've been watching Chris videos forever, so I see this type of thing all the time. I mean, it's amazing. The depth perception is one of the things they use to hide stuff, and it just goes to show both the black and white. When they flip over to the black and white, my eyes go nuts because I think the black and white it does my eyes better for some reason when you're looking to see the anomalies, especially on this image. I can't stop looking at that one S that's over right between where you've got the two pieces. Let's see, when you've got your yellow arrow and your green, or your red arrow there's a big S in between that sitting on top of it. How it just comes into it. It's amazing, like what our eyes can see, but it's there, and it's even there in the other image as well. And the fisheye lens one, that's pretty cool too. I haven't seen that one done before. I love the techniques you use to get those out. I think they use those on the Hazcams for, I think it's the way the software, supposedly the software can use those fisheye lenses better to calibrate certain moves when they're doing the autonomous. I was trying to look it up real quick because I had heard the whole spiel about those fisheye lenses before. They're only used on the Hazcams, but they definitely put off these strange images, and to drive from them is pretty strange too. But there are some pretty cool articles that talk about why they use them. You know, I think the only one on there that has a dust cap anymore was a Molly camera. So we're talking a lot of this stuff is coming back dusty as can be now anyway. So we're looking through a haze of dust on a lot of them. But that's why these Molly camera images really are good. But I love how you pulled that out. How do you do that, Chris? If you don't mind just giving us a really fast explanation of how you pull that out of that fisheye lens. Is it a burn tool? What tools are you using?
Are you talking about the actual artifact? The mountain itself, how we got through it? Yeah, I mean, basically, first of all, it's so bright you got to darken it up. You got to darken it up a little bit. You got to just take the highlight tool, darken it up a little bit, and then go over with your burn tool, and just very lightly. And these lines started coming out by themselves. I didn't do that. They just started. I went, what in God's green? They started going more and more and more, and I, what the hell? So next thing you know, these things are just popping out. So what I do is I cleaned it up the best I could, got rid of anything that was still an overlay, if you will, over the actual artifact. Went over, tried to burn anything away that was still there, and this is what I come out with. So, and then I just took the tool there. Hold on, let me see if this thing keeps popping up on me. I'm gonna go ahead and throw it out the window. No, I'm kidding. Let me see here. I'll just tell you real quick. Anyway, you can use the burn tool, but like I said, you just don't use a lot of it. And then use the dodge tool. I tell people use the dodge tool because here's the thing: when you use the dodge tool, anything that has, and I use the term because I'm not a professional photographer, anything that has a light signature, meaning it's supposed to be lighter or whiter, once you use that tool, you can literally go over it, and it'll start to pop anything that's supposed to be white, it'll pop it right out. Even through darker areas, it'll start to pop it out. Yeah. So this is what I ended up with, and I was just like totally dumbfounded. But now, guess what? It doesn't look that large anymore, does it?
No.
It looks like this thing's probably 50 feet away from the rover,
exactly.
As opposed to this mountain in the background.
It's it's a really great work you've done with it, Chris. Billy, Kazan, what's your thoughts on this?
I'll start with the fisheye first. Fantastic job, Chris, on this one. One of the things that I've mentioned before in a lot of our talks is the fact that the distance and the perception is always tricky, and it's always like an illusion, and it's so hard to say that or believe sometimes that something is 100 yards away or 5 feet away. It's so tricky. You just never know. And this is a fantastic example of that. And the way that you use the burn tool to bring those up. The burn tool is an amazing thing because it will start to bring out lines that you never knew even existed, and things that are completely covered in dust. It'll bring them out. And like you say, now all of a sudden, instead of looking like a mountain 2 miles away, it looks like something that's probably 50 feet away from the rover, and it looks like an artificial structure. It looks like a Pantheon, my record label, Pantheon Elite Records. So it looks like a Pantheon. So it's really cool. This is a really good image, man. I really want to take a close look at this on my other computer, my bigger screen and stuff. This is really nice. But definitely, once again, NASA with the tricks. I don't know I don't know anything about using autonomous driving techniques, but using a fisheye to navigate would be very difficult if that's what they're doing. In my opinion, I just think it's another way. I think they decide before they send these rovers out, what are going to be our deception tools? And what are things that we have to put these things out? What can we use to create the deception to keep our secrets hidden? And I think this is potentially one of the deception tools that they've used, that they've added to this device using taxpayer money to help continue to keep the majority of the people in the world completely blind as to what's going on and what their money's being used for. and the truth about what's really out there. So this is a
Well,
great
ask
one.
yourself this question. Ask yourself this question real quick. Look at that mountain in the first one. Now picture taking that mountain out and putting yourself a semi-truck or an 18-wheeler. Now
Yeah.
stretch it out with that fisheye lens. And how long would that trailer look then? It's supposed to be, what, 67 feet long? How long
Yeah.
would it look after you stretched it out with the fisheye lens? It
Oh,
would look
man.
incredibly long.
Humongous.
Well, there you go. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then going back to your other one, I know we had a Skype call about this one morning when you came up with this
Yep.
with the 3, and we saw these. And you're right. I mean, Neville's right as well. It's like these are just lined up, like you said, like a car lot, and they're perfectly parallel to each other. And there may be more behind them. You know,
Yeah.
and I'm wondering if this is like, if this was full of water and this was like some type of a port area, or are these were these built to sustain themselves during a flood, or were these built, maybe these were built for some type of habitats in ancient times? Whatever they are, they're definitely not hills or mountains. They try to make, I think NASA tried to make them look like mountains, but they're definitely not mountains. You know, after you showed and pointed it out to me, I took a close look at these things. They're definitely not, they're being put on to us, to the general population, as mountains, but they're just hills. And beneath that, they're actually in my opinion, some type of a vehicle structure or some type of a habitat type structure. They all have windows on them, or what appear to be windows. I don't know if they're windows, but they appear to be like windows. So they've been faked, they've been covered up, and somebody or something lined them up. Either they were lined up by a computer, digital age, or they were lined up by the original architects who built them. But
Well, I wanted to point out, too, if you look at that first object just left of that butte, that first one, it has a rounded front to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you look at that thing, what rock does that? What
looks
mountain
like a
does that? It almost looks like it's got a rounded face to it, front to it.
It looks like a fuselage. It looks like a fuselage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I found something similar to them buttes that are sticking out in Hebe's Chasma. I've just put an image in the Skype there. If you open that up, you can actually see there's like channels in the top of this rock where things could either like go into, you know. Now on one of the end ones, you can actually see there's something inside one of those channels, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember this. Yes.
Yeah, I can see that.
Now, Now, this is huge. Yes, this I took from Google Earth, and I made a plan of the it was about 50 or 60 shots that I'd done, and I just lined them all up, and I joined them together, you know. Now, when I seen that, I thought, bloody hell, that looks like a dock. It looks like a as if there's a
Definitely looks like an inlet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does, yeah. Now that's what I'm thinking. These buttes are in front of Mount Sharp. There could be like a dock where boats can come in and pull in the gap where these are built, you know.
Right.
Because there was an ancient river around Mount Sharp. So where there's a river,
even the area they talk about, even the area that they talk about is supposed to be this dried up riverbed or lake bed, whatever one. You look at that one. I've got one that's coming out. I got a video coming out that actually shows all kinds of structures laying there, as opposed to a dried up riverbed. So you go, okay, how is that possible if this is a lake bed? Now, I've always said that Mount Sharp, I've been studying Mount Sharp for quite a while. Mount Sharp, these are not mountains. Now, I'm not saying Mount Sharp doesn't exist. Of course it does. But what they're showing us is not Mount Sharp. It's clearly a lot closer than they're trying to convey. And it's clearly, again, these could be vehicles. They could be structures. They could be some kind of, like we're talking about, some kind of watercraft. These things could be anything. But it's clear that they're overlaying things to try to block what's really there. And when I seen this and enhanced it, I just go, whoa, come on. There's no way these things are that far away. They'd have to be ungodly huge. But the more you study what they're doing to these photos, the more you go, nah, these things are not that far away. They're not.
Chris,
Can I ask you, Chris, do you think they had any idea of if there are structures there? Do you think they had any idea in advance before they sent the Curiosity there as to what they were going to find?
Absolutely. I think they absolutely did, because here's the thing. It's like you've got every one of them, the Sojourn, you've got the Opportunity, Spirit, and Curiosity now. You look at all of these rovers, keep in mind they had satellites before the rovers were there.
Yeah.
So, and these things, again, these rovers, I mean, even the HiRISE aboard the MRO, the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, we've talked about this before, but I'll say it for the video, is that they can see 3 to 4 feet in diameter on the ground from orbit.
Yeah.
In ungodly, unprecedented HD photo. So they knew exactly where they were going to drop these things, because they go, hey, let's have a closer look. What better way than just have somebody on the ground looking at it? So they absolutely knew exactly where they were going to put these things down, and this is what they're inspecting. They're not looking for microbial life and all that other mess. They know exactly what they're looking at. They're going after these things, and they're studying it. And I'd bet my life on it. Unless these are totally false, in other words, they're completely made up in somebody's shop, which I doubt. I believe that they're absolutely there. And that's what they're doing. They're studying. They're literally going through cities or whatever they're going through, going around these things and just having a look at everything. This is the reason why they got the camera. Why would you put a subpar camera to check out something that's like could be the most fascinating thing to man right now? Yeah. You wouldn't do that. You'd put the best of the best. And just to add, I mean, I was just going car hunting the other day, looking for a car, and I ran into this guy. Long story short, this guy was telling me he was in the military. He was in the Army. And I asked him, hey, let me ask you a question real quick. How far in advance is the military compared to the civilians? You know what he told me? Without hesitation, 30 years. Without hesitation. So even back in the Apollo days, they had a lot better stuff than you can imagine. So, yeah.
Chris,
so these are just awesome.
These are some great pictures you came up with here, and we need to categorize them. The first one you came up with here with the arrows and colors here. Should that be fake image, or should it be a misunderstood image?
Manipulated and deceptive. Because it is actually, the photo is actually real, but it's what's being overlaid on them. So, yeah, I mean, it's fake. If you want to be technical, it's actually faked. But what's really there is actually there. So if that makes a... I don't know if there's a category for that, but...
Manipulated.
That was number 345.
Yeah, exactly. No, this one's 46.
Oh, sorry. Yes, you're right.
Sorry.
Heavily manipulated.
Yes. Yes, all right. And the other picture we have from Chris with the fish eyes. How would you categorize it?
Oh gosh, yes.
That one, big time deceptive.
Yeah.
Because again, using these fish-eyed lenses, I just don't see a place for them in this high-tech mission. To me, it's high-tech. I mean, this thing, believe it or not, this rover can do anything it wants to by itself. So, and it's actually making its own photos. It's actually doing it by itself. It's literally taking the photos, it's overlaying them the way they want to. They're stacking the photos, so on and so forth. And who knows, once they're sent to Earth, that they finish doing the job on them. But yeah, definitely deceptive as far as the way they're stretching this photo out and making this look like Mount Sharp, where it clearly is not. So that's my take.
Okay. Anybody of you want to add something?
No. Pretty much it.
Okay. You can find the links on the UFAH page on Facebook, and you can find them in marsmoonspace.com. Until we see again, take care. Bye.